When policemen misbehave, we must put it to poor recruitment, poor training, poor remuneration.
Trying to meet a policeman on the road, I have panic attacks because the police is a precarious institution that is not there to secure me. I don't feel like the police is there to secure me and make me safe. I feel like the police is there to victimize me.
Woke up one morning, Saturday morning to be specific, on the 11th of September 2021. I woke up to the headlines. An 18-year-old girl shot by a police officer. Sudden death of an 18-year-old girl has left family and friends in grief. According to eyewitnesses, the 18-year-old was killed just right here at number 53 Mortgage Street. The eyewitnesses say the police officer stood on that platform and pointed his gun through one of those holes, and then he shot Monsurat Ojoade.
I feel very bad.
We identified the person that shot. We've arrested him. We detained him now. We didn't come to tell you it was not police. We didn't come to tell you don't know the person. We not only say we are sorry, we know the person, we are doing this. This means that we are not hiding anything.
The victim died as a result of police bullets fired at her deliberately and for no just cause. The least the police could have done today would have been to send a representative. It wouldn't have been too much for the family. To me, it would have even facilitated and it would have aided the healing process, the closure for the family. The fact that the police was not represented here was, to say the least, disappointing. Not have a closure until they know who killed their daughter. Body, to my knowledge, has the true identity of the killer of Monsurat Ojoade. Is still demanding for justice. 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 They must get justice.
Justice for Monsura. Justice for Monsura. Justice for Monsura. Justice for Monsura.
It's not just another case of extrajudicial killing. It simply shows an imprint of decadence in the police force. Cases of excessive force, violence, abuse of power have for long been robed into the police force of the country, with police officers generally having a reputation for corruption, brutality, and little regard for human rights.
A good number of Nigerians have had it rough in the hands of the police. No thanks for poor recruitment. No policeman recruited himself into the police. The police recruited him. The recruitment process has been faulty over the years because Nigerians impose a good number of persons on the police. That one I know. Recruitment process is faulty. So it's garbage in and garbage out. Now the person that has been recruited in such a bad way, a faulty way, how have you trained him? In 6 months or 9 months, you turn him out to become a policeman. Has he been properly trained? And the answer is a capital no. It's a scandal that we have not been training our policemen very well and don't want them to work. That's what they call the plan: proportionality, legality, accountability, and necessity. These issues have to be imbued in the policeman in the course of training. I can tell you of a truth that many police recruits pass out for training without firing a shot. They only hear of AK-47 or one rifle. They may handle it, but never gone to range because there's no money to train them properly on use of firearms. That's the basic truth. And because Nigerians have not provided.
couple of months, the team recorded successes due to facelessness and its mode of oppression. But reports of success were soon accompanied by reports of abuse of power, extrajudicial killings, and accidental discharges.
SARS Special Anti-Robbery Squad was a child of necessity. Supposed to be an ad hoc unit, then to be disbanded, but it continued, began to grow, and there were no proper checks and balances. And that led to excessive use of force and abuse of power among SARS personnel. And the police wasn't comfortable with it at the time, I do know. It was like creating a Frankenstein monster. To tame it became a problem. I think the police lost control, that's the truth, of SARS. And Nigerians have taught the police to control their creations.
Protest against police brutality dates back to 2010, while announcements of disbanding the SARS goes back 2014. Another was made in 2015, then again in 2016, then 2019, and then until October 2020, the activism of Segun Awosoya, popularly known as Segalink, one of the strong voices in the EndSARS campaign, had been like a lone voice in the wilderness. But it is impossible to get his comments now that he sits on the judicial panel of inquiry investigating SARS-related abuses here in Lagos.
Before it became a major conversation across lips, the second day of the protest, we had the CP at the time at the Lagos State Assembly. Asked, maybe he directed his boys to point guns at us or something, but we just realized that the CP was there, asked his boys to take down our tents, the lights were switched off, policemen fully clothed, fully armed, pointed guns at us, and it was as though we were going to die, the 43 of us at that night. It was as though we were going to die, and that was going to be, we were going to breathe our last breath. So at that time, I think we had a popular person amongst us who was Mr. Macaroni. He was a more popular person. And then, so we coordinated everybody that everyone should stand together, hold hands, lie down. So if they want to start shooting, they would shoot us in unison. So no one would be left behind. So it was a very tensed, it was very traumatic, tensed, and in looking back, it was a very decisive moment in the history of the EndSARS protest, because it was at that point we asked everyone who was on Instagram to go live, everyone who was on Twitter to go live. So it created a lot of, that was the defining point for the protest. That was at the point where the protest became a global issue, because everyone could see that the police were facing armless protesters, young people, young citizens of the country who just wanted that the police force that they pay with their tax, they pay salaries with their tax, should not arm them, or should stop killing them, should stop harassing them, should stop extorting them, and many other issues that are around the Nigerian police force at the time. While we were 43 on Tuesday night, on Wednesday we moved to about 115.
We dey powerful. Oh yes. We not be youth. We not be youth. Say we not be lazy youth, abi.
The youth revolt started about a week after a general strike that the labor movement, the NS and TUC, was meant to organize against another increment of fuel price hike and deregulation, and that strike was suspended on September 28th without even achieving any decisive outcome. In fact, in suspending that strike, the NSC and TUC considered to the government that deregulation is a policy that has become inevitable. Sheer number of young people that poured into the street at Alausa on the daily occupation, the crowd kept increasing every day. Every struggle, whether they win the demands or not, every struggle provides enormous experience in the arsenal of an oppressed people that is fighting for change. And I think that the EndSARS struggle, first and foremost, demonstrated, unlike those who had given up on the possibility that Nigeria and the Nigerian working people and youth can save Nigeria, it also demonstrated that the young people of Nigeria, which is the majority of the Nigerian population, they are not a lazy or inert section of society, but they're actually a dynamic force that, if given proper leadership and a program of action, can contribute to the process of redefining a new Nigeria.
So for Nigerians, the social media is a veritable tool or platform for mobilization. So we've seen this happen in 2012 with the hashtag Occupy Nigeria. We also saw this happen with the Bring Back Our Girls in 2014. That's the campaign. We also now we're seeing it with the hashtag EndSARS in 2020. And so you see that the social media has always been a platform for Nigerians to air their voices, tell us what they want, demand what they want from the government. So the hashtag EndSARS wasn't something new, but it came with a force that was different.
I know that many families are losing children to police brutality, and we've been quiet about it. I grew up in the South, so I saw firsthand brutality play out on the street. I mean, there are many days in our lives when you can't even confront a policeman. They'll pull you out of your car. I personally too have experienced all kinds of harassment. Nothing was being done. So that a group of young people are saying, we're losing our brothers, our sisters, and we're losing our friends, and we need to speak up, because if we don't speak up, who could be next? And I didn't like the fact that the government saw them as an enemy, because that's not how to approach every sense of unrest. It's an outcry on a system that has reduced every young Nigerian to a victim. And if we really want to see the future, we have to protect the young people.
In a capitalist society where 1% of the population sits over 80% of resources, while the rest of the mass majority of the people are wallowing in poverty. A police brutality in that kind of society is not accidental. It's actually structural, it's actually fundamental and crucial. And that is because the police ultimately, in a class society like Nigeria, is created for the purpose of preserving and defending the interests of the rich and the powerful. So that whether they suspend or cancel SARS or EndSARS or not will not matter. In fact, at the beginning of the EndSARS debate, my organization pointed out to at least 5 other squad and elite units of the same Nigerian police for that are as deadly and as corrupt as SARS.
Police is as corrupt as Nigeria is, because corruption is situational and is influenced by the environment. If the body language of Nigerians is anti-corruption, the police must reflect the anti-corruption stance. And in corruption, we have the giver and the taker. Corruption, like I said, is situational. So many factors determine or influence corruption. And many a time you find some groups like Transparency International, they say Nigeria is the 7th most corrupt country, the 5th most corrupt country. They're not referring to the police. They're referring to Nigeria as a whole. And we do know we have corruption problem in this country, grievous one. That is why the governments over the years have created groups to work against corruption and then to fight corruption. Work against it is to stop it, prevent it, and then where it happens, as it does happen every day, to fight against it and stop it. So the police is a player in the game of corruption of Nigeria. So there is as much corruption in the police as there is in every segment. I've been here for 65 years. Every segment of Nigeria has issues of corruption. And then when you situate the police against Nigeria, I've shared it elsewhere. Nigeria police is like 300,000 personnel in a country of 200 million people. Look at the ratio, one policeman to 600 or so.
SARS, and which was the principal. We had a 7-item list that we submitted to the Lagos House of Assembly, which on the Tuesday.
Twitter was used to coordinate these protests, amplify the voice of the campaign, and berate anybody, whether a public figure, who was against the movement.
Part of the nature of the movement was it wasn't very centralized, so you have an opportunity, you have a case where there are many people, right? It was very difficult to bring everybody together because we were all united by a common pain, but not a united strategy as to how to move forward. So did we bring the sense of awareness? We did. And I think the gains will be seen in 2023. There is a sense that every young Nigerian today is becoming more politically aware because EndSARS gave an opportunity for us to educate people. That is a gain in itself, the enlightenment, the education, and the content on social media that highlighted the fact that people were being killed and nothing was being done is a gain. Many people today know that some parents have lost their children, a committee was set up for a probe, is a gain. But if you were expecting that game was going to morph into a political movement, maybe not. If the prospect, the people were hoping that the EndSARS was going to become maybe a political party, maybe not. The idea was not to make it into a party, but to awaken as many hearts as possible that come 2023, these are the issues you should look out for. And we may be speaking too soon if we think EndSARS is over or EndSARS have failed. Because I think the fire that has been lit in the hearts of many people haven't gone off. They're waiting for the right time, but this time to do it even within a structured system. So it's not just protesting, but now working within the confines of the legal framework to deliver what could become a gain for the common man and even change that we all anticipate as citizens.
From that October now, the youth who did protests in more than 20 states across the country without molestation for the most part, are not even to have protests of 100 people today, because the police uses the example of the EndSARS struggle now in a negative way to even strike out all democratic right to freedom of association and expression. I mean, so these are some of the points. But what it also points out to is what we said at the beginning of the EndSARS struggle, which is that police brutality is actually not an accident in a society based on inequality.
Just not having figurative leaders, which I would call it, was an advantage, was a strength, and also was a weakness. There was a lot of pent-up anger with young people, and then they needed a platform to air this anger. And that's why when you say that hoodlums took over the protest, now the government knew that hoodlums took over the protest. That's not the protesters' responsibility. It is the government's responsibility to ensure that hoodlums